Hi all. Um, we are going to start off here with the circulatory system as our topic, the first topic for lockdown. Um, there are a number of questions here on the screen, and I would like you to pause the video right now, and I would like you to look here and see, can you answer these questions before we start? They should be written in your rough work copy only, um, and and see how you get on with them. Okay. Um, so what we want to look at here is the circulatory system. The circulatory system is highlighted for us here on the picture on the left, which is a network that runs all the ways through our body and includes the heart, okay, as the main pumping organ of the circulatory system. It is a system that is found in all animals. Like humans, we find it in chimpanzees. We even find it in insects, including worms. So it's a vital organ for many animals to survive. The main objectives, really, of the chapter are to try to understand what are the main kind of bits that form the circulatory system, the main components, to talk about the composition of the blood. So, in other words, what kind of substances do we find in the blood? And then to try to figure out what are the interactions between the circulatory system and the other body systems, like, for example, the breathing system. We also want to try to understand what are the main functions of each of the different types of blood cells. So to start us off, we have a picture here of actual blood, and I'm sure you've seen this in the movies as well. It's quite a dark substance when it's inside in one of these hospital kind of packets. Blood is a fluid, but it's also a tissue. And that is called a tissue because it is full of lots of different types of cells working together. In the adult body, so the average adult, we will find about 5 liters. So, what would be a good exercise for you to do in a moment is actually to fill up a jug, 1 liter full, and then maybe if you have a container, pour it into a container and repeat the process 4 more times just to get an idea how much actual blood is in the human body. 5 liters, and you actually see it in front of you. Actually, sometimes I look at it and think it's actually quite small. Um, for the human body, the blood gets its color from it gets its red color from red blood cells. So inside in our body, we have such a thing called the red blood cell, and the red blood cell is what is actually carrying around the oxygen in our bodies. We have different blood types, and um, maybe later on in life you would consider donating your blood. Hospitals are always looking for people willing to pass on their blood to maybe patients who need it. But there are 4 different blood types in general. There's type A blood, there's type B, there's type AB, and there's type O. So if you ever go and go through a procedure, you might actually be able to find out what blood type you are. So, for example, I would know that I'm type B blood. Okay. And it's very important to know, especially as you get older, what type of blood type you have, because it might mean, it might mean that might have certain allergies that you might not be aware of, and it's just a useful bit of information that you can share with different medical professionals. So, inside the blood, when we talk about this blood and it's a liquid, the main liquid that we actually find inside here in the blood is actually just water. Okay, and really, I mean, it makes sense. Water is the most common substance around us. Um, but this blood, in general, if it wasn't for blood, we would be very, very cold. We wouldn't survive, obviously, but without blood, we wouldn't be able to be kept warm, because blood is very important for circulating around heat around their body, like from head to toe. So if you ever experience really cold feet, it might be, you might say I have poor circulation. When you say you have poor circulation, you might be referring actually to your blood. Okay, so blood is very important for passing heat around the body. So two definitions here for us that we should be learning. One is a tissue. A tissue is a group of cells that work together to carry out a function. And another one there is a fluid. A fluid is either a liquid or a gas. So in this case here, blood is a fluid. It is a liquid. Now, what is the blood actually composed of? So when we look at this blood, this is kind of a dramatic image here of the blood, just trying to highlight the different components. And we can see here there's a red blood cell. Okay, so there's red blood cells. There's also these things here, and these things here actually represent white blood cells. So there's white blood cells here inside the blood as well. There's of course other things like cholesterol. Okay, so we've got cholesterol, and we all have cholesterol. Some cholesterol is good, some cholesterol is not so good, and we get that from our diet. So whatever we eat will determine our cholesterol levels. There's also things that are all of those things would be the large parts that don't really dissolve inside in the substance. So when I say the word dissolve, I have a very specific meaning. When you dissolve, for example, sugar in water, you don't re- you if you only put a small amount of sugar into the water, you actually won't see the little grains anymore. It's almost like it's disappeared. So when we say that substances are dissolved in blood, we mean that we can't really see it individually. So what kind of substances are dissolved in blood? Well, there's lots of substances. There's CO2, there's glucose, glucose, remember, from our digestive system. There's vitamins from our digestive system that got into our blood. There's minerals like, for example, calcium. There's other digestive foods like, for example, protein. There's some wastes. Urea sounds very like urine, and urea comes from our cells. There's salts, and there's also some hormones like, for example, testosterone for men and estrogen for women. So when we look at our plasma, if we were able to separate out blood and say, I want to divide blood into just the liquid part and the non-liquid part. The liquid part is called plasma, and the plasma looks like this. Doesn't look like blood at all, does it? But actually, it is one of the major components of blood. It is the liquid part of the blood. It is made of 90% water and 10% dissolved substances, and those 10% dissolved substances are all of these. We also have the non-liquid part, and then the non-liquid part actually gives the blood its color, like the blood cells, the red blood cells, the white blood cells, the platelets. Okay, the large proteins that are found inside the blood, and also the cholesterol. So I'm going to finish up here with the red blood cell today, and I just want you to get as far as here. The red blood cells are, they are blood cells, as we said. They have a very unusual shape. They have this sort of donut shape, and this donut shape, they kind of go in the middle here, and this shape here allows them to make sure that they carry as much oxygen as possible. Okay, it's actually very useful to shape like this to hold as much oxygen as possible. They contain a red pigment, and a pigment is something that gives something color. You might have heard that in art. And they contain a pigment called hemoglobin, and that hemoglobin carries oxygen around the body. What's interesting about these guys here is that they contain no nucleus, and they contain what we call a biconcave shape. So a nucleus is something we expect in all cells, but the only cell in the body we find no nucleus in is actually the red blood cell. They have a biconcave shape, bi meaning two, and the concave means that it has this unusual shape that kind of goes in the middle. And of course, the main function here of these red blood cells is they carry oxygen around the body, and the mineral that actually makes up this hemoglobin here is something called iron. Okay, we'll stop there for today.